Okay. Oops. So yeah, I'll just put the shared screen on. We'll go through the past classes. There we are. So yeah, if you remember, first week we proved the authenticity of the Vedas, which is Upanishads is one of them. Then we, in the invocation, we prove the nature of the absolute truth. And then this is a subject matter of the Vedas. And then the next three verses, we could understand that if the absolute truth is complete, he must own everything. And so everything should be used according to the owner's desire. That's number one. Then number two says, if we do that, then we can actually carry on in that way, even if we aspire for a long life, but it's useful. If we don't, our life is useless and we're degraded. That's chapter 3. And then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is another section. And this one is explain the vision of we said there were 3 kinds of devotees. Kanista Adhikari. Adhikari means qualification. Kanista Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. So Isopanisad has given the example of what a Uttama Adhikari is, the topmost devotee, one who's completely engaged in full devotional service with body, mind, and words. And he's also known as a Maha Bhagavat, or a great devotee. And so all the symptoms were there. Then the next section is what we're on now, the absolute and the relative truth. And then the next section, 12, 13, 14, will be the absolute and the relative types of worship. Okay. So we can start with 9. I'll just get them put. Okay. Andantamaha pravishanti yed vidyam upasate tato bhuya evate tamo ya uvidyayam rataha. Those who are engaged in the culture of nescient activities shall enter into the darkest region of ignorance. Worse still are those engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge. Okay, so who wants to read first? We're going to, well, maybe Barbara, do you want to read first? Oh.
I'll read.
Did you say me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's all right.
I think I have one, Jeff. This mantra offers a comparative study of vidya and avidya. Avidya or ignorance is undoubtedly dangerous, but vidya or knowledge is even more dangerous when mistaken or misguided. This mantra of Sri Upanishad is more applicable today than at any time in the past. Modern civilization has advanced considerably in this field of mass education, but the result is that people are more unhappy than ever before because of the stress placed on material advancement in the into the inclusion of the most important part of life, the spiritual aspect.
Okay. So I think everybody will agree with that. Materialism increasing. Sita Thakurani Mataji.
As far as Vidya is concerned, the first mantra has explained very clearly that the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of everything and that forgetfulness of this fact is ignorance. The more a man forgets this fact of life, the more he is in darkness. In view of this, a godless civilization directed towards the so-called advancement of education is more dangerous than a civilization in which the masses of people are less educated.
Well, that's an interesting statement.
Mm.
That, what appears to be knowledge, it may not be knowledge, that's the point. And it'll qualify that in the next few paragraphs. So, Maya Purishwari, Mataji.
Thank you. Of the different classes of men, karmis, jnanis, and yogis, the karmis are those who are engaged in the activities of sense gratification. In the modern civilization, 99.9% of the people are engaged in the activities of sense gratification under the flags of industrialism, economic.
Wait a minute. Are we reading from the right place here, or is it me what's got the wrong page?
I don't know. I'm on the third paragraph of.
All right, just a minute.
That's what I think we all.
Eh? Is she right? Okay.
Am I right? Or
Fred, so.
oh, shall I continue? Yeah, okay. In the modern civilization, 99.9% of the people are engaged in the activities of sense gratification under the flags of industrialism, economic development, altruism, political activism, and so on. All these activities are more or less based on satisfaction of the senses, to the exclusion of the kind of God consciousness described in the first mantra.
Okay. Yeah, so, so many people, there's so much knowledge in this world, so much education nowadays. But, basically what it's saying is that it's actually not vidya, it's avidya. It looks like real knowledge. And the whole purpose of this particular verse is to highlight that point. We'll hear it as we're reading through how, there's so many university degrees, so much education, but it's actually worse than being ignorant because it's disguised when they're educated. They think they're actually advancing, but they're becoming more deeper entrenched in the material concept of life and being, educated to do the wrong things. So they're being sent in the wrong direction. So it says that this is very dangerous, and it'll give an example of this later. Okay, so let's go to the next. Jai Krishna Prabhu.
In the language of the Bhagavad Gita 7.15, people who are engaged in gross sense gratification are mudhas, asses. The ass is a symbol of stupidity. Those who simply engage in the profitless pursuit of sense gratification are worshipping avidya, according to Sri Isopanisad. And those who play the role of helping this sort of civilization in the name of educational advancement are actually doing more harm than those who are on the platform of gross sense gratification. The advancement of learning by a godless people is as dangerous as a valuable jewel on the hood of a cobra. A cobra decorated with a valuable jewel is more dangerous than one not decorated. In the Hari Bhakti Vilas Subhodaya 3.11.12, the advancement of education by a godless people is compared to decorations on a dead body. In India, as in many other countries, some people follows the custom of leading procession with a decorated dead body for the pleasure of the lamenting relatives. In the same way, modern civilization is a patchwork of activities meant to cover the perpetual miseries of material existence. All
Okay.
such activities.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So let's just go just down to 33. Very slow.
Maharaj, just sorry for interrupting, but why would the cobra with a jewel be more dangerous than one without the jewel?
Well, they both got the same potency to bite and poison and kill you, but you know, when there's a jewel on its head, it looks very nice. You know, and it's actually it's camouflaging the reality of what the danger is. So modern education is also like that. But if we go for the modern education, if we go for the jewel on this, if we try to take it, we'll get, you know, we're dead. So modern civilization or modern education is doing that. It's killing people of the spiritual values.
Thank you.
And the next point about the, you know, decorations of a dead body, you know, the person's dead. There's nothing you can do about it. So, you know, what's the point in decorating the body? It's just a useless waste of time. So that's material civilization. Everything they're doing, they're decorating this dead body. Our bodies are dead. They're not alive. They're only alive because the soul's there. And so, you know, we're spending all our time decorating this body instead of decorating the soul with knowledge. So, you know, when we decorate the body, we get some sense of achievement and, you know, like that. But really, it's just it's a fantasy. It has nothing which is lasting. It's just a mental exercise to try and find some pleasure in a situation. That's material. That's the emblem of material happiness. Actually, it's all in the mind. There's no factual happiness. And is that okay? Does that make sense? Okay. So we can carry on. And Jai Krishna Prabhu, do you want to read on?
Yep. Where are we? Where are we?
All
In the middle of the paragraph.
all such activities
All such activities are aimed towards sense gratification. But above the senses is the mind, and above the mind is the intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul. Thus, the aim of real education should be self-realization, realization of the spiritual values of the soul. Any education which does not lead to such realization must be considered avidya or nescience. And to culture such nescience means to go down to the darkest region of ignorance.
So
Carry on.
Yeah, just a minute. That's the answer, isn't it? The answer is that, you know, our energy should be applied. Real video means that which helps us to approach the absolute truth. Yeah, carry on for a bit if you want.
According to the Bhagavad Gita 242 and 715, mistaken mundane educators are known as Veda Vada Rata and Maya
Maya Paritagyan.
yeah, that. They may also be atheistic demons, the lowest of men. Those who are Veda Vada Rata pose themselves as very learned in the Vedic literature. Unfortunately, they are completely diverted from the purpose of the Vedas. In Bhagavad Gita 15:15, it is said that the purpose of the Vedas is to know the personality of Godhead. But these Veda Bhadarata men are not at all interested in the personality of Godhead. On the contrary, they are fascinated by such fruitive result as the attainment of heaven.
Okay. Yeah, if you read Bhagavad Gita, this Bhagavad Gita 15:15, it says that, you know, Sarvasya Chaham, Krishna's in the heart, the Paramatma, and from him comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So, you know, when we desire to understand transcendental knowledge, then Krishna will help us from within. He'll help us to understand the Vedas. But if we like the Veda Vadarata, then, you know, these people are like, they just study. There's four purusharthas, or activities that people who have got some understanding of what the Vedas are talking about, what the goal of life is, they'll perform dharma, which is religion, to get artha, some material gain, like money. And then when they've got material gain, they can actually get karma, which means they can enjoy the senses. But the ultimate goal is to come to the fourth one, which is moksha. So moksha means liberation. And so even the modern liberation, or the liberation of those who are acquiring knowledge by Gyan, they just study in the Vedas without any connection with Bhakti, then that's only a temporary moksha. But real liberation, or moksha, means that we've performed devotional service. So our artha, our dharma, artha, moksha, and karma, in our religion, our acquisitions of wealth, and our activities should be channeled or dovetailed with the service of Krishna. And then when it becomes bhakti, then it's actually knowledge. So even those who are following a path of religion, they can still be practicing ignorance if they're not aware of the actual goal. So I'll just go through. Here we are. Vidya, knowledge, avidya, ignorance. Knowledge means to know the absolute truth of the Supreme Proprietor, Krishna. Forgetfulness of the Lord's supremacy is ignorance, avidya. So here it gives a nice graph here on this chart. So there's two kinds of people who lack knowledge of Krishna, and 4 types of ignorance. So yeah, so the materialist is one who is complete in ignorance, and the pseudo-spiritualist is one who's actually the Veda Vadarata. He looks to be on a path, but he's not. And therefore, people may follow him and be placed further into ignorance, because it's not connected with Krishna. So materially ignorant, materially knowledgeable. They know how to enjoy this world. Next, can you see that hand? Yeah? Good. So pseudo-spiritualists, Veda Vadarata, the scholars of the Vedas, only of the 3 Vedas, this is explained in Bhagavad Gita, they're called 3 Vedas. All they're actually after is just enjoying the senses, and at the best, they get elevated to the heavenly kingdom where they can enjoy even more and become even more frustrated. But then the last one is called Maya Parita Gyan, self-made. This is also in Bhagavad Gita 7:15. There's 4 kinds of people who approach Krishna. One wants knowledge, he's the highest. One's inquisitive, he's next. One's in search of wealth, he's poor. And one's suffering. So before that verse, it mentions the 4 kinds of people who don't approach Krishna, and one of them is the one who he develops, material knowledge, or even he might read the Shastras and obtain some gyan, but he comes to the conclusion that it's like most impersonalists, they only come to the impersonal understanding of God, and therefore ultimately they'll think that they're God. We're all spiritual, and when we achieve perfection, we all become God, that sort of thing. Yeah. Okay, so we can just read a bit further. I've got two iPhones here. Let's have a look. If you just whoever's got their label as iPhone, just tell me a name and then you can speak. How's that? Anyway, I'll go on to one where there's a name. Is it so? Don's not here today, right?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I'm not sure if I'm on one of those iPhones, but
No,
it's
you
Tushar.
want the Vishal.
Tushar. Tushar.
Tushar.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so can you read?
Hare Krishna. As stated in Mantra 1, we should know that the personality of Godhead is the proprietor of everything, and that we must be satisfied with our allotted portions of the necessities of life. The purpose of all Vedic literature is to awaken this God consciousness in the forgetful living being. And this same purpose is presented in various ways in the different scriptures of the world for the understanding of a foolish mankind. Thus, the ultimate purpose of all religions is to bring one back to Godhead.
Okay. Okay, so Kalpesh, would you like to read? No, Kalpesh, well, that's Suman, do you want to read?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Nandava Pranam. But the Vedarata people, in a state of realizing that the purpose of the Vedas is to receive the forgetfulness soul's lost relationship with the personality of Godhead, take it for granted that such side issues as the attainment of heavenly pleasure for sense gratifications, the lust for such cases, their material bondages in the first place, are the ultimate end of the Vedas. Such people misguide others by misinterpreting the Vedas, the Vedic literature. Sometimes they even condemn the Puranas, which are authentic Vedic explanations for laymen. The Vedaratas given their own explanations of the Vedas, neglecting the authority of the great teachers, Acharyas. They also tend to raise some unscriptural person, from among themselves and present him as the leading exponent of Vedic knowledge. Such Vedavatarotas are specially condemned in this mantra by the very appropriate Sanskrit words Vidyamrata. Vidyam refers to the study of the Vedas because the Vedas are the origin of all knowledge, Vidya, and Rata means those engaged.
Okay.
Vidya,
Yeah, it says that. Anyway, maybe we can change readers. It was not read yet. Anybody not read yet?
Hi, Krishna Raj. I'm pronounced. Vidyan Rata thus means those engaged in the study of the Vedas. The so-called students of the Vedas are condemned herein because they are ignorant of the actual purpose of the Vedas on account of their disobeying the Acharyas. Such Vedaratas search out meanings in every word of the Vedas to suit their own purposes. They do not know that the Vedic literature is a collection of extraordinary books that can be understood only through the chain of disciplinic succession.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's an important point, is that we can't understand Vedic literatures on our own. It's not possible. If we read Prabhupada's books and we just read the translations, will get confused. It takes a realized soul to actually explain them. It says that in the Bhagavatam. Tarko Pratishta Shrutaya Vibhina. The scriptures are many branched. We don't even know what scripture to read in the beginning. Shrutaya Vibhina, Nasaf Rishir, the Rishis, Yashana, Matak Nabinam. That they have many different, understandings of the same thing. So if we follow, we'll get confused again by all the contradictions that they come up with. We'll not know which one's correct. So that's Tarko Pratisha Shrutaya Vibhinam Nasab Rishir Yashan Matabaninam. So, and the scriptures are anyway, I think that covers everything we have to about what we don't do, So the rest of the verse says that the Mahajana, that means Mahajan, Manajena Yena Gita Sapanta. So we should follow the path of the Mahajans, or somebody who's realized the conclusion of the Vedas at least. We're all in a particular disciplic succession. So this will be the next point. And they're coming from the Mahajans, which are like our Mahajan is Lord Brahma. We're in the Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya. And then, Shiva is also a Mahajan, like that, the Shiva Sampradaya. And those who are representing that Sampradaya, it's called Acharyas. And so we should be in the line of the Acharyas. Okay. Who's not read yet? I don't know your name because they're not. Would somebody else like to read who's not read?
Hare Krishna, I haven't read.
Go on then.
But I can't see it.
What's your name?
Sorry, I don't have an answer.
Jez.
Okay. Jez, okay.
But I don't know if I can expand it on my phone because I'm seeing it on an iPhone.
You don't have to read if it's difficult. It's okay, no problem.
Yeah, I can't see it, otherwise I would. It's tiny.
Okay.
It's like and I can't expand it.
Okay. Anybody else not read yet? If we're not, we'll go back to the beginning. Okay. Maybe Sandeep, you haven't read, have you? Have you?
Hare Krishna Swamiji.
Oh.
I just joined. I don't know from where I have to read.
It's one must approach a bona fide spiritual master. If you just listen, you won't know.
Is it on the 9th chapter?
Yeah. Anyway, when you catch up with it, well, let somebody else read, and then you can catch up and find out where we are. So, Barbara, do you want to read again?
Yes. One must approach the bona fide spiritual master in order to understand the transcendental message of the Vedas. That is the direction of the Upanishad. These Veda-Rata people, however, have their own acharyas who are not in the chain of transcendental succession. Thus they progress into the darkest region of ignorance by misinterpreting the Vedic literature. They fall even further into ignorance than those who have no knowledge of the Vedas at all.
Okay. That's what we've just confirmed what we were saying earlier. Sita Thakurani.
The Mayaya Parita Jnana class of men are self-made gods. Such men think that they themselves are God and that there is no need of worshipping any other god. They will agree to worship an ordinary man if he happens to be rich, but they will never worship the personality of Godhead. Such men, unable to recognize their own foolishness, never consider how it is that God can be entrapped by Maya, his own illusory energy. It is very difficult. If God were ever entrapped by Maya, Maya would be more powerful than God. Such men say that God is all powerful, but they do not consider that if he is all powerful, there is no possibility of his being overpowered by Maya. The self-made gods cannot answer all these questions very clearly. They are simply satisfied to have become gods themselves.
Yeah. So, you've got to be in a big illusion to think you're God. Maya operate, that's why they say they call Maya. They're just covered by Maya. So that's the power of the material energy. If we want to be covered, then Krishna will arrange that we're covered. It's like that. If we want to be free, then Krishna will arrange that also. And he'll give us a real teacher. Not, we've got teachers in every discipline.
How do you find a teacher that is on your, that if you don't have time, I mean, if you're working full time and you're not initiated, and sometimes you're in and out of Krishna consciousness, you find it a struggle. How does one then find a spiritual master? The average person has to work, there's a living crisis on, there's a lot of pressure, everything's risen. So this is why I find sometimes it's quite impractical and quite hard to, if somebody works full time that has all their rent and energy cost and living, just everyday living is hard these days, let alone going and sitting before a spiritual master.
Yeah. The thing is, first of all, we have to understand the process. So if we're actually serious, we'll make time to understand it. Put some time aside. And just like everybody else does, I know that single mothers sometimes, I've heard them say they're working to keep the children. They've got a couple of kids who they have to set up to school. And they're also doing a college course. And sometimes they've told you, how do they do it? Because they're determined to do it. And so, if we're actually determined to do something, we'll make time for it. It's like
but
that.
How specifically do you find a spiritual master?
Well, that's another thing. If we hear what a spiritual master's qualifications are by studying these books and hearing these books from those who are following it, then we know what to look for, and we know what qualification we have to actually receive teachings from that spiritual master. So, we can take shelter of anybody if we want. We can take but it won't do us any good. We have to know the qualification of a spiritual master from hearing about one. Okay.
So, for example, if say that I went to the temple on Sunday and there was somebody who was in the Hare Krishna temple, say in Soho, London, and they were claiming to be a spiritual master, then you could approach them and say, I would like your guidance.
Well, yeah, the thing is, if you have knowledge, you would ask him pertinent questions, which would show whether he was a spiritual master or not. First thing you would say, who's your spiritual master? And if he says, I ain't got one, then you can just drop it straight away. It means he's just actually speculating. And then the next thing is, what sampradaya are you? What disciplic succession are you in? Well, if he hasn't got a spiritual master, he can't be in any disciplic succession. So it's a complete waste of time. So that's the first question. Yeah.
What if, right, just hypothetically speaking, one chanted 16 rounds and followed the 4 regulative principle throughout one's life and didn't have a spiritual master, what would be the results?
Well, theoretically, it can work, but practically it doesn't work. Because unless we, it means, why haven't we accepted a spiritual master? It means that, that we've got some reason why we haven't done it, even though we know we should do it. So we have to dig out, what is that reason I'm not actually doing that? And usually we'll find that reason is an obstruction to our devotional service. It means we're thinking that maybe I don't need a spiritual master. But, that's not very, that's not going to be very successful. We need a teacher to explain things in all different disciplines.
A self-realized soul.
Yeah.
That's actually a valid question you asked, Prabhu, because, I've been following and reading for the past how many ever years. I've been chanting regularly since 2006, and obviously following the 4 regs, but I've still not progressed to that next level. And I don't know I've tried to introspect, but I can't identify what the issue is or why I can't move forward.
You mean you don't feel like you want to take initiation?
Oh, I do want to take initiation, but I've never just gone on the process of taking initiation.
Yeah, so, first thing is to listen to those who are actually, spiritual masters already. We don't have to listen to those who are spiritual masters already, but if we're not so experienced, we can listen to them. And those who are actually, we see to be representing Srila Prabhupada the best, and those who we can actually connect with, we feel inspired by what they're saying, then we can start to listening to that particular person more. And then we can, you know what I mean? We have to start focusing. And then we can start to, we'll come to the point where we become convinced that I want to actually take initiation. And then we can do that through the proper process.
So initiation, that means that you have to follow all the rules and regulations and chant 16 rounds. But what about your material situation, such as where you live, and your family members and your friends? Do you have to give all of those up and go and live in a temple or the manor?
No. No, we have to learn the art of living in our situation and practicing spiritual life. And, it's not easy living in a temple, and it's not easy living outside. They've all got their tests, Spiritual life means we have to have 2 parallel lines, like a train runs on 2 parallel lines. So devotional life runs on 2 parallel lines. One is our material needs. We'll speak about this more in the 11th mantra. And one is our spiritual needs. So we have to make sure we're actually, seeing to both those things. And then what will happen is that if we practice spiritual life in that way, we'll start to become more attracted to the spiritual needs, and they will become more prominent in our lives. And we'll naturally start to make choices based around that. But I think we'll talk about that in the 11th mantra, okay? So
Because from what I can hear, when I go to temples and I speak to other people on the path, is that they feel like they have 2 identities, and the 2 identities kind of conflict with one another, and it causes some people quite a lot of pain and difficulty and confusion and confliction, because you have a material identity and you have a spiritual identity, and of course the spiritual and the material are opposed to one another, so it causes conflict. So how can that be good and healthy?
Well, the point is that we're conditioned to the material concept of life, and it takes time to get out of that concept. The processes I've just mentioned by the parallel lines. If we practice spiritual life properly, gradually the spiritual practice will become stronger, and our spiritual service, devotional service, will become stronger, and we'll become more focused on that. And when we become completely focused on that, then there'll be no doubts in our mind. And even though we're living in a situation which is, sometimes it's conflicting to our devotional.
For like months.
Turn your mic off.
Sorry.
So we'll be able to, overcome the problems.
Yeah, that does make actually perfect sense. Yeah, I do understand. So you're saying like materially you have an identity, but the more spiritual you become, then your material identity becomes weaker, and then you become more strongly attracted to Krishna. I think there was something about a rod putting a rod into the fire.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like that, right? So your material identity is the iron rod, but when you put it into the fire, it becomes hot and fiery, and that's the spiritual dimension.
Fire. Yeah. We still have the material body, but it acts in a spiritual way.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you want to? Who's next to read? By the way, I've just forgotten now. Is it Tusha Prabhu?
Are we on the next verse?
Yeah, we just finished.
We're starting Mantra 10.
Yeah.
Anyat Ayavahur Vidyaya. Anyat Ahur Avidyaya. Iti Shushruma Dhiranam. Enaschat Tad Vijachakshire. The wise have explained that one result is derived from the culture of knowledge, and that a different result is obtained from the culture of nescience. Okay, carry on.
Hare Krishna. As advised in the chapter 13 of the Bhagavad Gita, 13:8 to 12, one should culture knowledge in the following way. 1. One should become a perfect gentleman and learn to give proper respect to others. 2. One should not pose himself as a religious simply for name and fame. 3. One should not become a source of anxiety to others by the actions of his body, by the thoughts of his mind, or by his words. 4. One should learn forbearance even in the face of provocation from others. One should learn to avoid duplicity in his dealings with others. One should search out a bona fide spiritual master who can lead him gradually to the stage of self-realization. And one must submit himself to such a spiritual master, render him service, and ask relevant questions. In order to approach the platform of self-realization, one must follow the regulative principles enjoined in the revealed scriptures. One must be fixed in the tenets of the revealed scriptures. One should completely refrain from the practices which are detrimental to the interest of self-realization. One should not accept more than he requires for maintenance of the body. One should not falsely identify himself with the gross material body, nor should one consider those who are related to this body to be his own. One should always remember that as long as he has a material body, he must face the miseries of repeated birth, old age, disease, and death. There is no use in making plans to get rid of these miseries of the material body. The best course is to find out the means by which one can regain his spiritual identity.
Okay.
One should be. Yep. Thanks.
There Or is it?
Sorry, I do
Yes.
have a question. Can I ask one?
Yeah.
I've always found this troubling. Giving all respect to others and expecting no respect to yourself. If one is on the spiritual path and doing like more than a materialist, such as going to the temple, chanting all the rounds, following the 4 regulative principles, you know, doing double of the work of a materialist, why shouldn't a devotee get the respect and not and the materialist doesn't? It just seems topsy-turvy. Surely
Yes.
the devotee should get the respect.
He should get respect, but he shouldn't want it. He shouldn't ask for it. He should actually respect others because they're all parts and parcels of Krishna. They're just conditioned by the material energy. So he doesn't see them from the external point of view. He sees them as lay, or, you know, servants of the Lord who become influenced by the material energy. Therefore, and the Supreme Lord is in that person's heart as well. It's just that as a devotee, we are actually more fortunate than that person. So we should show compassion to them, but we should at the same time not feel superior to them.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Jai Krishna Prabhu, can you read?
Yep. Where are we? Number
13.
13. One should not be attached to more than the necessities of life required for spiritual advancement. One should not be more attached to wife, children, and home than the revealed scriptures ordain. One should not be happy or distressed over desirable or undesirable, knowing that such feelings are just created by the mind. One should become an unalloyed devotee of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, and serve him with rapt attention. One should develop a liking for residence in the secluded places with a calm and quiet atmosphere favorable for spiritual culture, and one should avoid congested places where non-devotees congregate. One should become a scientist or philosopher and conduct research into spiritual knowledge, recognizing that spiritual knowledge is permanent, whereas material knowledge ends with the death of the body.
Okay, so these are paraphrased in the Bhagavad Gita in the 13th chapter, text 8 to 12. So they give a little bit more information about that in that particular book. But basically, these are the items of knowledge that we should imbibe. If we follow this process of these 18 qualities, then it will fix us on the path of knowledge and help us to understand the process of Bhakti Yoga. But, you know, otherwise we become, we develop the wrong attributes like anger, greed, you know, lust. These are not the qualities that we want. These are the qualities we're trying to get rid of. So by following these 18 items, it helps us to do that. Jai Krishna.
Are that the verses that kind of differentiate knowledge from Vidya and Avidya? In the Bhagavad Gita, it says that this is real knowledge and this is ignorance. Is it those verses?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is knowledge, and everything else I declare to be ignorance.
Okay, yeah.
That's quite a bold statement. So that means that all GPs, all people in the medical field who believe that God doesn't exist and that they're giving treatments of the body and are all in ignorance. And the Prime Minister and the people in government, they're not chanting Hare Krishna, they're running the country. So they're all in ignorance.
Yeah.
That's quite a bold statement, isn't it? I mean, it's a...
Yeah, it means that they've got some material ability. They're called duskritina. They've got merit. They've got some material ability, but they're misusing it. And because they're misusing it, they're ignorant of how they should be using it. So, you know, it's actually doing them no good. And anybody who has anything to do with them, it'll do them no good anyway, as well, sorry. But, you know, even if a person's, you know, materially, by material standards, is not very well educated or is poor, if he actually knows how to connect him with Krishna, he's the most learned person. Some of Lord Chaitanya's associates, when he appeared on this world, they were actually, they appeared to be very poor people and not well established in society, but they were the most learned people. And people, and you know, and those who were actually intelligent, they went to them for knowledge. So, you know, it's not how our external appearance or our external ability which matters. It's our internal development.
I see. It's all reversed, isn't it? Everything is opposed. So a spiritualist knows who he is internally and has very little on the outside, whereas the materialist has everything on the outside, but doesn't have very much on the inside.
Yeah, materialist interested in the body, in the gross body, which is just it's just you know, a carcass which is inhabited by the soul. Therefore, it's animate. So he's trying to satisfy the body, whereas a devotee or one who's practicing spiritual life, he's understanding that that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is the soul development, because the soul will carry on after this body. So he's taking care of of his next life. Prabhupada once, he was talking, I think I mentioned this last week, I'm not sure, but he was talking to one this reporter. He came and he started to preach to him about, you know, because he'd ask a question about life, and he said, well, what's more important? He said, if you've got a car or the driver, which is more important? And there was a long silence, and he said, he replied, the car. And Prabhupada said, no, I'll listen carefully. And repeated his question. And so there was a long silence, and he thought it out. He says, and he started chuckling. He said, the car, you know. And, you know, after about 3 times, Prabhupada, you know, he realized that he wasn't qualified to hear it. So he said, you know, just associate with devotees and take prasadam. It's quite obvious that the car can't do anything without the driver. That's the point Prabhupada trying to make. So if we concentrate on the car, you know, it's not going anywhere unless it's got a driver. So we are concentrating on the soul as a devotee. And so they you know, Mr. Putin and Zelensky and whatever leaders or whatever their position, you know, then they're actually thinking that the car, you know, they think the car's important. So it's craziness. It's 2 minutes to we can finish this section anyway. Finish this. Where did we get to now? The 18 items combine to form the gradual process by which real knowledge can be developed. Except for these, all other methods are considered to be in the category of nescience. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, a great Acharya, maintained that all forms of material knowledge are merely external features of the illusory energy, and that by cultivating or culturing them, one becomes no better than an ass. This same principle is found here in Sri Isopanisad. By advancement of material knowledge, a modern man is simply being converted into an ass. Some materialistic politicians in spiritual guise decry the present system of civilization as satanic. But unfortunately, they do not care about the culture of real knowledge as it is described in the Bhagavad Gita. Thus, they cannot change the satanic condition. So, you know, people are aware that things are going wrong. They're trying to change them, but they're just making it worse because they don't know the process. In the modern society, even a boy thinks himself self-sufficient and pays no respect to elderly men. Due to the wrong type of education being imparted in our universities, boys all over the world are giving their elders headaches. Thus, Sri Isopanisad very strongly warns that the culture of nescience is different from that of knowledge. The universities are, so to speak, centers of nescience only. Consequently, scientists are busy discovering lethal weapons to wipe out the existence of other countries. University students today are not given instruction on the regulated principles of brahmacharya, celibate student life, nor do they have any faith in the scripture injunctions. Religious principles are taught for the sake of name, fame only, and not for the sake of practical action. Thus, there is animosity not only in social and political fields, but all in the field of religion as well. Nationalism has developed in different parts of the world due to cultivation of nescience. By the general mass, no one considers that this tiny earth is just a lump of matter and floating in immeasurable space along with many other lumps. In comparison to the vastness of space, these material lumps are like the dust particles in the air. Because God has kindly made these lumps of matter complete in themselves, they are perfectly equipped with all necessities for floating in space. The driver of our spaceships may be very proud of their achievements, but they do not consider the supreme driver of these gigantic, more gigantic spaceships called planets. How much more is it to go? 1, 2, 3. Oh, there's quite a bit. So we'll finish there on planets. And we'll come back next week. Has anybody got anything else before we wind up?
Yeah, just sorry for all the questions. I'm well known for questions. So, but like, you know, all these wars that are going on and the world is in a terrible mess, and what you've said does make sense, because if people are in ignorance are running the world, then it makes sense. But is war natural or is it unnatural?
It's unnatural.
Right.
The only reason there's war is because people are self-centered. They're selfish. If they realize that everything's centered, that Krishna's the owner of everything, they won't fight.
So as simple as that. If the wars are just over what people own, and if they didn't have that desire to own, then they wouldn't fight.
It's called lust. The desire to enjoy separately from God, instead of using, he's the owner of everything, so everything should be used for his pleasure. And if everybody does that, then everybody else will be satisfied. Because when we reciprocate with the source of all pleasure, we get pleasure. When we water the root of a plant, the whole plant becomes nourished, and Krishna is the root of creation. But if we water the leaves separately, there'll be no satisfaction, and the plant will die. So everybody's trying to water their own leaves, and they're suffering as a result.
Oh, well, that's answered my question.
Okay.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. What's your name again, sorry?
My name's Jez.
Oh,
yeah.
Jez. Okay, Jez.
I'm a struggling devotee. I'm trying very hard, but I'm definitely not, I've done 7 rounds today. And I go to the temple, and every time I go to the temple, I just become much happier. It's very nice. It's a really nice religion, but I just find it a struggle because I'm compromised by my material situation a lot.
Yeah.
But the more I go
if you do make time to chant more rounds, you'll find that things become more and more easier to practice, and you become more satisfied and more focused.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying. I made a vow to do 4 at least per day, and I've always stuck to that. And I've been following it for like 15 years. So
Okay, so maybe we can up it a little bit, eh? What do you think?
I'll try. I definitely will try.
Okay.
Jasper, we actually have meditation in the morning from 6:15 to 7 every morning. Mataji runs a Zoom class on that. So if you want to join, or if you're available during that time, it'll be nice if you join.
Okay, I will do. Yeah, I will try. Yeah.
And I'm sure, Jez, you've joined it in the past, possibly. I'm sure you might have done at one point. It would be nice to see you back anyway. Be lovely.
No, thanks. Yeah, thanks.
We've missed you, Jez.
Oh, I missed you too.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Yeah, okay, I will join. I will definitely join. Yeah, Hare Krishna, I will. And I'm going to the temple on Sunday, to the Sunday feast. And so I'll be there. But I work all week, so it's a time factor for me, you know, like but I definitely will connect as much as I can. And these meetings are very good because obviously you can ask questions and you don't have to go to the temple, and you can associate. And association, I think, is imperative, isn't it? Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
Yeah, association is vital. We can't perform devotional service and achieve success without it. Prabhupada said if we think we can go back to Godhead without the association of devotees, then we're living a great illusion.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's yeah, absolutely. Because it's not a process that can be done on your own unless you're born into a family of devotees, and because I think our conditionings are just too strong, and the material energy is very strong.
yeah.
So yeah, we need that. We definitely need help and
it's
support.
The philosophy of a bundle of sticks. If you've got one stick, you can break it very easily. But if you've got a bundle of sticks, it's very difficult. So if we keep association of devotees, we'll be very strong. So we can keep association online, and we can keep personal association as when we can. But we should do it regularly, and then we'll become inspired to do more. It's like, then it's cumulative effect. We'd start to, grow spiritually. We have to make a bit of effort, that's all, It may appear difficult because our priorities are we've got a certain paradigm, but when we chant the Hare Krishna mantra, the paradigm starts to change and our priorities start to change. And so it doesn't become an effort to actually make those changes. It's a painless process if we follow this process of chanting, actually.
So Krishna is all we need. We don't need anything external at all. I mean, if one is Krishna consciousness, like if you get to a certain level where you're feeling Krishna, you don't need anything else. That can make you completely and utterly satisfied and happy.
Yeah, if we actually connect with Krishna, with body, mind, and words, full time, then we've achieved the goal. And so therefore, we'll naturally chant the Hare Krishna mantra, we'll naturally engage in the devotional activities. Now we're actually performing a process by which it's like rules and regulations to get to that point. But, so therefore, if we follow them strictly, we'll get to that point reasonably quickly. We'll develop a taste, we'll develop attraction, we'll start to feel love for God, and that'll just increase. Krishna's reciprocating in kind. If you approach him, he'll actually make a big endeavor to help you.
Does he see our challenges, our difficulties, the ones who can't, we're all on different levels. We all have different life circumstances. Some are born into great devotee families and chant 24/7. Some are struggling with one round. I mean, does God see the difference in our abilities and our
Yeah, every relationship is custom made. It's treating everybody differently. But the thing is, when we start, it's like a child when he learns to walk, all the relatives and the mother and father, they're clapping their hands in joy and encouraging him. But when he gets to 16 years old, they don't do it the same, they're not going to clap their hands and encourage him anymore. They expect a little bit more from him after he's been practicing for a while. After he's been, when he grows up. So we have to grow up in spiritual life and do that little bit more so that Krishna will encourage us at that point. Yeah, you're doing the right thing, carry on. Like that. Anyway, I think
what does a devotee do on holiday? I mean, a materialist has a holiday. Does devotees have holidays? What do they do on holiday? I mean, a materialist will work extremely hard.
They'll go to India. They'll go to India, to the holy dharm.
Do they ever have a holiday of non-chanting?
I mean, there's nothing. There's nothing to
Krishna ever say, right? You've done enough. Now you can have a break. No.
Actually, I've been all around the world with devotional holidays: India, Georgia, Switzerland, Ukraine. I travel all over the world, and I'll stay with devotees at temples. I literally go to places I'd never have gone.
Very true.
Yeah.
Okay. All right then.
It's cheaper as well.
Very cheap, yeah. Food's better.
Food's better.
Oh, okay, I'm in.
See you next time.
Okay, everybody. It's nice that everybody came in this week again. So we'll start next week with in the middle of text or mantra 10. So have a good week. And more glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Okay, Hare Krishna, nice to see you all.
Thank you very much.
Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Maharaj.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam Maharaj.
Bye-bye.
Hare Krishna.